The Black Death plague was one of the deadliest pandemics in history, and it has cropped up again. 3 cases recently reported in China. So why has this medieval disease still around and still infecting people? Joining us is infectious diseases specialist, Dr. Isaac Bogosh. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me back.
You know, we hear the Black Plague, the Black Death is back. People, lots of cause for alarm. The World Health Organization classes it as a re-emerging disease.
Yeah.
We thought it was gone. Where is it happening and why?
Well, I mean, we obviously think about the plague as an infection that killed, about 1/3 of Europe in the 1400s, but it never really went away, and it exists in about 15 or 16 countries worldwide. It mostly infects rodents, and it mostly infects small little mammals, and it's transmitted from animal to animal by flea bites. But once in a while, a human will pick it up, and it's well known that there are a few human cases per year in a few countries around the world.
I'm going to ask you why you don't seem alarmed by this, but I want to remind everybody where this is happening in the world. You said about a dozen countries, 15 countries?
Yeah, but these cases are in China, and it's known to exist in China. Another one of the hotbeds of plague is Madagascar. They have a season where they'll have a few more cases of plague throughout the year. And believe it or not, in the southwest United States, there may be a few cases of plague every year in around the Four Corners area around Colorado.
So how do you get the plague?
So
in 2019?
Yeah, unfortunately, a handful of people will get the plague every year. The vast majority of people will get infected by getting bit by an infected flea. And the flea is biting a rodent, and if the flea bites a human that happens to be walking by, the human will get the plague. Now, we think of the plague as this deadly, terrible infection that killed 1/3 of Europe, but in fact, in 2019, we can make a diagnosis rather easily with conventional technology that we have today, and there are readily available antibiotics that can treat this infection.
So you can treat the plague with antibiotics?
100%. And if people get diagnosed quickly and get treated quickly, they'll do just fine, and they'll live a happy life, and life goes on afterwards.
How do you diagnose the plague? Like, if you see a patient, what are you looking for?
Well, the interesting thing is people don't often suspect the plague because it's rather rare. But there is a syndrome, and we've heard of bubonic plague, and people will. Most people who get infected with this will present with a fever and some muscle aches, but then they'll have a painful, swollen lymph node, a bubo, and a clinician can say, this might be the plague. And you can send a sample, a blood test or a sample of the lymph node to a microbiology lab, which exist everywhere in Canada and in many places that have plague, and they'll be able to make a diagnosis. It's a bacteria, so they'll be able to grow it.
How come we haven't been able to get rid of the plague?
Yeah, it's a great question. The reason is because it exists in nature, and it exists in smaller rodents, and this has existed for millennia and will continue to exist for millennia, and will once in a while jump over into humans, but I mean, it's not something that we would imagine eradicating from planet Earth because it exists in these small animals.
Well, I'm glad you were here to clear that up for us, because you see Black Death and people dying again and the plague, and you start to worry. Thanks, Dr. Bogosh, for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.